US superstar Conservative commentator Candace Owens is on the way, but it's time now for The Clash. And as our late Queen famously said, after allegations of racism from the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, recollections may vary. Now, from reading his awful autobiography Spare, Harry's recollections are definitely varied. So, recounting the death, for example, of the Queen Mother, he says, "At Eton, while studying, I took the call. Your Royal Highness, the Queen Mother has died. However, Harry was actually skiing on holiday with Charles and William." He writes that in 2002, our family was no longer getting larger. His aunt and Uncle Sophie and Edward had stopped growing their families. However, Lady Louise was born in 2003 and Viscount Severn was born in 2007. Harry refers to Henry VI, who founded Eton School, as my great-great-great-great-grandfather. But Henry actually only had one son who died as a teenager without any children. Harry claims Camilla had suggested that he should become the Governor-General of Bermuda. Guess what? A simple Google search would tell you that Bermuda does not even have a Governor-General. He also tried to play the victim, saying when he talks about Charles giving him money to go shopping for formal wear, I'd go to TK Maxx, the discount store. I was particularly fond of their once-a-year sale. But a spokesman for TK Maxx has clarified, whilst we're delighted Prince Harry is a fan, we don't actually do sales. And what's more bizarre is that Harry and Meghan can't even get the facts right between the two of them. Watch this.
Somewhere in here, there's a piece of, did you see it? The piece of blue fabric that's stitched inside.
No.
It was my something blue. It's fabric from my...
I hope it's still in there.
Yes,
we'll have to look at that.
It's fabric from the dress that I wore on our first date.
She was wearing a black sweater, jeans, heels. I knew nothing about clothes, but I knew she was chic.
So I think we can all agree that Spare, a book branded Harry's Truth, is full of discrepancies. So my question tonight, why is it being sold as a non-fiction book? And what do you think? Is Spare actually a work of fact or fiction? Down at GBNews.uk, vote in our Twitter poll at GBNews. But to help you make up your mind, I'm joined by the former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner, the man who made Diana's iconic wedding dress, and her friend, David Emmanuel, and the broadcaster, Denise Headley. Niall Gardner, I mean, this isn't just discrepancies, is it? I'm going to go out on a limb and say Harry's a big fat liar and this book is fiction.
Dan, thanks very much for having me on the show today. And as you point out, I think that Prince Harry's memoir Spare really is just full of lies. It is really a work of fiction. This is not a book based upon fact. And in fact, it's doubtful even that Harry's read much of his own book, frankly, regarding all the lies that contained within it. And I do think that this is all a cynical exercise by Meghan and Harry just to generate huge amounts of wealth as long as they can while they retain their royal titles. It's absolutely ridiculous that they remain the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. This is a hatchet job. It's a nasty, vicious attack on the royal family. And it is full of not only half-truths, but complete lies, actually. So this is, in fact, a work of fiction here. It's a particularly vicious attempt to destroy the royal family. Of course, Harry is failing spectacularly. His latest approval rating, I think, is minus 44 percentage points. And in the UK, I would say that Prince Harry is probably about the most unpopular figure right now. And also here in the United States as well, Meghan and Harry are increasingly disliked as monumentally selfish, arrogant and narcissistic individuals. So I think the world has had enough, actually, of their campaign of hatred against the royal family.
David Emmanuel, the issue that I have is that if Harry can't even get these very simple facts right, why on earth should we trust any of his story?
I don't trust a word he says. I think the whole thing is totally hideous. It's excruciating, embarrassing, and it's tinged, dare I say, it's tinged with a little bit of jealousy. I mean, let's go back. The rot started with Oprah Winfrey, right? They had 3 shows, then he did another 3 shows. And what I discovered, because I was watching Breakfast, and there were contradictions in what they were saying all the time. And Piers Morgan, who I wasn't a fan of, I agree, but I thought, this guy's talking a lot of truth. He got up from the studio, walked out, lost his job. Now, you know, It's deeply embarrassing for his father, the king. It's deeply embarrassing for Camilla, the prince and princess, well, the entire royal family. And they're doing absolutely the right thing. Make no comment. And hopefully it'll go away. It won't go away because he's on a book tour, isn't he?
No, it won't. It's going to keep going. You were obviously a close ally and friend of Diana.
Yes.
He invokes the memory of Diana a lot. You know, he was even telling an ABC interview earlier this week that Diana would be really upset about the way William's acting. What do you think?
No,
I
think she'd be... Look, he's linking himself to his mother because she was a style icon. She was a star, a global star. He's not silly. And he's been tutored to answer certain things. And you notice one thing, he's very fluent when he's by himself. Well, when he's with that American woman, his wife, then he clams up. She takes over. So I think behind all this, she's driving all this. And they're scrapping around for tidbits. Who cares? You know, he had frostbite on his penis. Who cares he's circumcised? Who cares his brother pulled a necklace off him? And it's really...
Grow up.
Tattle.
Now, Denise Headley, I'm fascinated for your view on this because I know that you remain a big ally and a supporter of Harry and Meghan. So how do you justify the fact that the book is littered with lies and inconsistencies?
Thank you for having me on. I think the notion that a ghostwriter diminishes the value of a book means essentially that anyone who has support in their art or their creative process somehow renders it a fiction. Based on that, we wouldn't have the works of Moses or many of the prophets who
But Harry could have corrected the ghostwriter.
Just a second. We wouldn't have the words of prophets who effectively are ghostwriters for God. So the point that you're saying to me that a ghostwriter diminishes their contribution, I think is a...
But that's not the point I'm making. Sorry, Denise. No. Let me just interrupt briefly and then I'll let you continue. But that isn't the point I'm making at all. The ghostwriter is there because Harry, with all the will in the world, is not a particularly articulate or intelligent bloke. So fine, he needed a ghostwriter. But what Harry can do is make sure he gets his facts straight. He's read every word. We know that because he's narrated the entire audiobook. But he's not correcting these mistakes.
I think when you're writing your work, especially if you have support in writing a piece of work, it doesn't make the work a fiction. The importance of the book is the conversations it's creating, and the fact is that Harry and Meghan, his wife, are at the forefront of some of the world's most important conversations, and that is a real difficulty for many people to grasp. So if your argument essentially is, well, because he had some support, therefore the work is fiction, I disagree with you fundamentally.
So it doesn't matter if there are mistakes in the book?
I think in terms of the type of mistakes, we need to consider what the context is. I can confess I've only read the first half of the first part of the book.
Oh, it doesn't get better, Denise.
I haven't read because I'm getting on the audio.
Doesn't get better, believe me.
But what I'm saying is that you can't simply just suggest because there are recollections of memory that those recollections are somehow renders everything inaccurate. The book has a massive impact politically. It has a massive impact in terms of the conversations.
But how do you feel about the fact that they are no longer saying that the royal family is racist? I've rode back on that now.
I think the question around racism in the royal family is particularly well articulated, and I don't need to re-rehearse that particular exercise. But if they are making assertions based on their lived experience, I mean, they are. It is Harry's words.
David, facts still matter, don't they?
It's historic.
Pardon?
Facts still matter.
Of course they do. And look, they've got to spew out their guts, as it were, haven't they, in this book, because they need tidbits, they need punchy headlines. And let's not forget, I mean...
Well, I think actually what's happened is they have created a complete fantasy world. And they have started to believe their own spider web of lies. And it's only folk like you and me who are able to say, hang on a moment, you said she was wearing this to the date, and the other one says this. I mean, it's just lies. It's just
I wish Tom Badbury asked the question, why are you doing this?
Well, he's his best mate, though, isn't he? Final word to you, Niall Gardner. I mean, no one's holding Harry to account because the only people who get a chance to interview Harry are his close personal friends. It's not journalism, is it?
Yeah, I fully agree that we are dealing here with two incredibly delusional individuals, Harry and Meghan here. They live in their own parallel universe, and it's a world full of frankly delusional lies, and they probably believe their own lies, actually. And we are dealing with two people who are on a vendetta against the royal family, while at the same time trying to rake in all the money they possibly can, exploiting their royal connections. It's absolutely appalling. It is ghastly, it's hideous, and it's an absolute disgrace.
And he still doesn't... I don't think he feels he's happy. He keeps on saying he's happy.
I know.
I don't think he's happy at all. I think he wants more and more money.
Certainly not. But look, thank you so much, former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner, Diana's friend, and her wedding dress designer too, David Emmanuel, and the broadcaster Denise Headley. So who do you agree with there? Do you consider Spare a work of fact or fiction? From Elliot, my impression is that it may qualify as historical fiction based on real-life events, but not strictly accurate. I think that is a fair point, actually. From Mick, this is a fantasy novel, but instead of dragons and werewolves, we have a whining prince who has betrayed his family in pursuit of fame and fortune. And from Bruce on the email, now the book is out, I can't wait for the Disney film. Hopefully Rowan Atkinson will star as Harry in the appropriately titled The Has-Been. Oh, brilliant. You're all so good. Your verdict now in, though. Wow. Just 9% of you consider that Spare actually is a work of fact. 91% of you say it's all fiction.